Hello and welcome to the FISHCAST. We are the world's first and foremost Fishmans podcast. I am Ray Carlton.
I'm Christian Garcia.
Yeah, I realized that we never actually, we haven't been introducing ourselves over the past few episodes like a real podcast should do.
It's okay, you know who we are.
You know who we are, but we kind of just started out and said, oh, hey, let's talk about Fishmans. Alright, so we're sort of entering the second phase, you could call it, of the FISHCAST, because our last episode, we went over the audience rankings, and we kind of closed out that first opening era of Fishmans. So now we're entering into the Setagaya Trilogy.
What does that mean?
The Setagaya Trilogy is thought to consist of the final three studio Fishmans albums, being Kūchū Camp, Long Season, and Uchu Nippon Setagaya.
Yeah, no, I don't think the band actually called it the Setagaya Trilogy.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. Everyone calls it the Setagaya Trilogy, but is this official, or is it just a fan thing?
It's a fan thing. It's not official.
So yeah, I mean, it makes sense because the three albums definitely have stylistic similarities, and it feels like an era in a way that none of their other albums kind of combine to create.
But I feel like an unintentional effect of this is when the fan comes up with this trilogy that the band never intended. It kind of separates these three albums from their earlier albums.
These are the good albums, is what people are saying.
Which is why people don't listen to their earlier albums, probably, because they just think, well, I just gotta listen to these three and I'm good.
Bad, but I mean, these albums are great, and we'll get into why.
It's true.
But before that, we have a little tiny piece of news, I guess, regarding our friend and former co-host, One Chops, or Jake from the UK. He has this really cool list on Rate Your Music where he's been translating Fishman's lyrics into English because he actually speaks some Japanese and he's able to do it in a way that's a little bit more accurate and clear than just throwing the lyrics onto Google Translate. But the official Rate Your Music Twitter page actually tweeted about his list, and it was retweeted by the band, by Fishmans, and or at least whoever runs their Twitter account. And they basically said that his list was really cool, and they were glad that someone was putting in the work. So I mean, that was really cool for us to see, since we know him.
We're proud of you, Jake.
We're so proud of you, Jake. Also, we're probably going to have you back on the show at some point. But yeah, if you ever want to check out Fishman's lyrics, I know we don't talk about them as much anymore as we used to because we have other things to talk about, but just find One Chops on Rate Your Music, or you can just go to their Twitter and find the tweet about his list.
Also, I assume if you're listening to this podcast and you use Rate Your Music at all, you know who One Chops is.
One Chops. But no, that was so cool. Just the fact that they care about someone putting in that work to translate their stuff. Good job. And we'll be going over some of those translated lyrics today.
Wait.
Damn, we working.
Alright,
so as I said, today we'll be talking about Kūchū Camp, which is the fifth studio album by Fishmans. And this is sort of the point where they begin solidifying more of a dream poppy kind of sound as opposed to their early, more reggae-ish dub stuff. And this is also the point where I become like Chris and I start to think that everything the band does is perfect and I have no complaints.
save for a couple tracks. So we'll get into that.
So basically the background on this album, Fishmans signed with Polydor Records after the release of O Mountain.
Shout out.
And Polydor is a huge international label. They've been home to artists like The Who, James Brown, Elton John, and Lana Del Rey.
Wait, who?
The Who? Yeah. And Polydor also gave the band their famous Waikiki Beach studio, which is not in Hawaii, it is in Japan. But this is a pretty big move. I couldn't find too much info on what prompted Polydor to sign the band, but I can only assume it was due to their growing success after Neo Yankees, Ikareta Baby, and Orange.
Now maybe Polydor predicted that in 20 or 30 years the internet would go crazy for them.
They're hey, no one cares about these guys now, but if we sign them, we'll make a lot of money in 2020.
That's marketing, baby.
So either way, that's really cool. They played a big show once they signed to Polydor. That was actually the last show that Hakase was part of because he did leave the group after their move to Polydor.
Goodbye.
But this sort of meant that the band was free to shift up their sound, and they started working more heavily with other collaborators such as Hanzi on violin and guitarist Shinya Kogure of Hicksville, which is another Japanese band. So they're sort of changing up their sound a little bit, even more so than they did with Orange. You okay?
Yeah, okay, we're good.
Cool. So the first single that they released on Polydor was Night Cruising, which was released in November of 1995. This really signaled their shift in sound a lot. It sounds totally different from anything else they've done, and we'll get into that. But Kūchū Camp, or Aerial Camp, as it is translated, was the album that dropped the following February in 1996. Only 8 tracks on it, pretty sparse. They're kind of following in that direction of Orange. But these tracks are a little bit longer and more substantial.
Better.
So here's a question. Many sources list the title translation as Something in the Air instead of Aerial Camp. And on the cover, it does say Something in the Air in English, but like that's not the title, right? It's Kūchū Camp.
I think the fact that it's called Aerial Camp and the fact that on the cover it says Something in the Air, people just call it whatever they want. You know?
Don't.
Please call it Kūchū Camp, and please call it Aerial Camp.
Yeah, like clearly the katakana in the title says like Kampu, so it's saying camp. It's not like a Japanese word.
Clearly.
Clearly.
We expect everyone to know katakana. Just believe us. And
Just
Jake.
believe us. So yeah, this cover art, it's honestly my favorite Fishmans album cover, I think. It's just so, like, it really captures that, like, quirky vibe of the band members.
It does, but it's not as good as the Uchu cover. I'm sorry.
Okay. So,
For different reasons.
now that the band is a trio after Hakuse's departure, we see Shinji, Motegi, and Yuzuru, like, floating above some sort of outdoor, like, desert scene. And they have big smiles on their face. It's very clear that they're like not actually floating, and it was like a poor Photoshop. But like the resolution that they're in, and like the pixels, and even the color saturation are like not matching their surroundings.
You know, it could have been intentional.
Oh, it was definitely intentional. But it's very goofy. It captures the eclectic nature of the album. And also, like, I was looking at the album's physical release, like the back cover and the sleeves. The album's back cover on the physical version has like a picture of all these cows, and it looks like it's in some like European hillscape. It doesn't match the front cover at all. It's really weird.
Good for them.
But I think that sort of represents the album, because every track here is very different. Like, they're really playing with a wide variety of sounds on this thing.
But it is consistent
Yes.
in a weird sort of way.
You're gonna have fun editing this one. Alright, so let's get into our adjectives for this one. So I think, if I remember correctly, Chris last episode got the adjective tea, but he like didn't come up with any words because he's an unprofessional podcast host. So I guess we decided he'll actually just do tea on this episode to make up for last time. So what you got?
Give me a second. Okay. That's what I thought. I just had to make sure the definition of one of my adjectives was correct. And that adjective is temperamental.
Temperamental?
I guess I read like, you know, susceptible to like rapid changes of mood. And like, that's kind of what this album is.
Yeah. It definitely has some of like the highs and lows in terms of emotion on any Fishmans record.
It's got it all.
I think a lot of the previous Fishmans albums were just more consistently like pleasant, but this one is definitely kind of moody.
This one may or may not be obscure, but I've never seen it written out, and it looks kind of silly. Twilight.
Like Twilight, but like as an adjective. Twilight. Oh,
It's
it's
funky.
Twilight. Explain.
I don't know. That's just like the time of day.
Okay,
that I
yeah.
imagine this album taking place in, but that's just a personal.
Interesting.
thing.
We'll get into that. I think the time of day kind of like changes depending on what song you're in.
I think it gets into Twilight.
Okay, I would agree with you.
Okay, there you go. And then tangy.
Tangy.
Sounds kind of
Ooh,
tangy.
you should have said that one for orange, man.
I know, but
It is kind of spicy though.
yeah. But since I missed my opportunity,
Yeah, no, I
this
think
album is tangy.
I think that goes along with the temperamental. It's sort of like it's a little saucy. It has a bite, I guess you could say. I mean, I could have used the word bite because the letter I got was B, but I did not. My first adjective was bangin'. So yeah. While Orange might have been Fishman's most like rockin', groovin' album, I think this album actually goes the hardest in terms of like beats. The emphasis on like really clean
Those Fishman's type beats.
the emphasis on like really clean production and Zach's like really clean like electronic flourishes really make this album bang. And some of it is really like hip hop influenced. Probably the most so out of any Fishman's album, right?
I would agree.
Yeah, the tracks they go kind of hard. My second adjective was buoyant. That's
Loki
a
thought
funny
you were
word.
gonna say boring.
No, I love this album. It's buoyant. No, I like tracks like Baby Blue and Sunny Blue are like so bouncy and full of life. And this record just feels like you're floating, like because the cover, you know, they're floating.
Wow.
No, but even when the tracks get a little bit heavier, it's never dragging you down. It's always just grooving like really, really hard, and it's bouncy. And then my third adjective is best, because this is the best Fishmans studio album in my opinion.
I'm gonna let Ray take the rest of this podcast episode. I'm gonna go take a nap.
It's not my favorite album from them, but I think the level of range the band shows here is more impressive than any of their other albums. And
let it be known that I disagree very heavily.
Is this the first time that I'm like more positive on an album than
I
Chris?
feel like we've said this before.
All right.
Yeah, you've asked that question before.
It's the best. Cool. Want to get into these tracks?
Yes, I do.
Track number 1 is Zutomai, or Long Before. So the opening to this track feels like completely weightless. Mm-hmm. You have this beautiful guitar tone.
Let me say, I don't know, for about a month or two, this was my favorite Fishmans song.
And you weren't wrong. Like, it's so good. It really like puts the dream in dream pop.
Wow, man. Also, that like the melody.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Like, cause they play it on like a synthesized string sound, and it sounds beautiful.
Yeah, this is a perfect introduction to this new sound of Fishmans because it really doesn't sound like anything else that they've done. Also, Shinji's vocal performance here is one of my favorite. He really
so
like
funny.
It's kind of funny. Yeah, he hits these like really high notes, and he's just like he feels loose. And I was gonna ask you, like, is it just me or does the songwriting on Kūchū and beyond start to get like a little bit more free flowing than the earlier stuff?
Well, yeah, seeing as like their last song was like You Were Making the Air, which has like no structure at all. Like they were definitely building towards no structure.
Yeah, but like not even in terms of song structure. I guess I'm talking about like the delivery of the lyrics. Like I think if you go back and listen to like something like Walkin' or even like Doyobi no Yoru, Shinji he's singing in this very like just line after line. You know, it's kind of like a normal song structure. But I feel like once you hit Kūchū, Shinji is almost just, he's not even like tethered to the rhythm. He kind of just sings these like long-winded, it's almost like speak singing.
He's rapping.
It's almost like rapping, but it's not quite. But it's definitely on this album, but maybe more so on Uchu. There's a few parts on that album where he's really just like spitting syllables, and you're not sure. It's just cool. It doesn't feel like he's as locked into the groove as he was before.
He is his own man. He is his own
He's like floating above the track, and he does it here. It's really cool. But I love it, yeah. If I had to describe the vibe of this track, it's like a hazy island, because I think those guitars have that classic like Hawaiian kind of like lazy sound, you know, where they go like wow. But
they're just washed out.
It's just washed out, yeah.
Oh man.
But the track doesn't do it in like a cliche way. Like it doesn't sound like they're making like Hawaiian music, you know what I mean? It's just they use it as like a tool to evoke something a bit more kind of strange.
It's one of their best openers.
It's one of their best openers.
It's their second best opener.
Okay. And it's very clearly like meant to be an opening track. Like we'll probably talk more about the structure of this album lately, but I couldn't imagine this anywhere else because it so clearly like feels like an introduction to this world. So yeah, and there's a great trip hop element to this track in particular. This great beat.
Also, the little staccato guitar notes that play like in the verses.
Oh, so good. The only flaw of the song for me is that it's not a flaw with the song, it's just that like there would be lots of live versions of the song later on where they'd really like stretch it out to like 9 or 10 minutes and they'd include some really cool stuff from Hanzi that like those are kind of the versions that I return to, like the version on Hachigatsu or the one at like Liquid Room. These versions are truly like that song for me. So when I hear it on the album, it's almost like just a preview of the actual song, but it's still like incredible.
Yeah, you could say that. It's kind of like the difference. I mean, I guess a lot of their studio tracks into their live versions, but probably the most notable one would be like Long Season, where clearly the live version of Long Season that shows up on 98 is the definitive version of the track.
But the other one's good too.
Well, that and also like the other one's like less intimidating to listen to.
Yeah. Like
Because
this
that
is
one's more of an event.
This is just kind of like a track, and it's great.
Yeah, so if I wanted to hear Zutomai and not feel anything incredible, I would listen to this one.
And I think the shorter version works well on the album, because I don't know if the album had opened with like this huge 10-minute Colossus, if it really would have had like the same sort of flow. So
There's no way to know.
there's no way to know. I was looking at Chops' translations for the lyrics, and I don't have really too much to say on this album in terms of lyrics, but this track had some really nice ones. There's like a persistent vibe of loneliness throughout this album. Like all the lyrics kind of refer to being alone in like a city. And there were some cool lines like, "That girl who gazes at the gaps in the night through the window. I am currently living alone in a very, very quiet room. Very, very lonely laughing. I feel lonesome, like an abandoned dog."
Oh.
It's so sad. Which is weird to me, because like the track almost feels triumphant without knowing the lyrics.
Or if not triumphant, at least at peace.
But no, he's like, "I'm basically just a dog in the street." Like,
I don't know if he's going that hard. I
Maybe.
think he's just saying he's just a little lonely.
He'll get more lonely throughout the album.
Oh, man.
Anything else you got to say about Zutomai?
Zutomai.
Was that it?
That's it.
Nice. All right, that brings us to track 2, Baby Blue.
I hate you for that.
Yeah, this is the most popular Fishman song, at least on Spotify.
And you know why? I don't know why this happened, but it was on everybody's playlist when Fishmans were added to Spotify.
Yeah, what's that? It's that playlist they make at the end of the year where they like recommend you. It's like Spotify Discover, right?
Yeah, and this was the song they chose to put. This was also a single.
I know why. I think like Spotify Discover, they're gonna recommend you artists that are a little bit like under the radar. And I think enough people, because this happened in like 2018-ish, right? I think enough people at that time had been listening to Long Season. It was kind of like during that Rate Your Music breakthrough, like that renaissance. And those people were probably listening to like Death Grips and all those artists, and like MGMT, Little Dark Age, stuff like that. So I think that everyone else who was listening to like Death Grips, MGMT, any sort of like big Rate Your Music stuff in 2018, they probably got like what the other Rate Your Music people were listening to, so which was Fishmans.
But it very closely corresponded with when Fishmans got added to Spotify, which was 2018. They weren't always on Spotify.
Are you saying it's a conspiracy?
No.
Did Fishmans pay off Spotify to put themselves on a playlist?
I guess Spotify, the moment, or like when Fishmans were added, I guess Spotify decided that Baby Blue
Was
is
the
the
song.
track that they should show people.
Hey, if you were the Spotify exec who listened to all of Fishman's discography and decided that Baby Blue was your chosen song to show to the world, come on the show.
We could really use your insight.
Anyway, I'm kind of glad that this is the most popular one on Spotify. Like, it definitely deserves that. I would say it's better than Ikareta Baby in terms of being like a Fishman's pop song.
I don't know if I'm that glad that it's the most popular song, but at the same time, I don't know what, like, I wouldn't want it to go to Ikareta Baby, because this is better than that.
It is.
But it's not like I hold that high of an opinion of this song. It's it's
damn.
so, no, it's perfect.
Okay.
Don't worry, it's perfect. It's so ubiquitous now that I'm just...
Yeah, I mean, I guess it hasn't had that effect on me because I've been listening to the band for less than you. But I don't know, for me, this is like truly just one of their, like, it's in my like top 5 Fishman songs probably.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. And it's less that it's worn off on me. It's more just like, it's just one of the perfect Fishman's tracks. You know?
We haven't even like talked about the song, but there's this like, there's
that.
this really cool, I mean, it's one of those songs where every single element kind of adds up into this like alchemical formula that makes a perfect song. So one of the elements is the bass line. It's like one of their best bass lines. It's so bouncy and juicy. It's a buoyant bass line.
Oh.
And then of course the flute is probably like the crown jewel of the track. Without the flute, the track would be like half as good as it is.
And the flute's just playing like 3 notes.
Oh, it's so lush.
Those
though.
are the 3 best notes.
Also, like, I mashed the song up with Flamingo, and it's on our YouTube channel. Flamingo by Caro Caro Bonito. and it's basically the same song. So go listen to that. But it literally in my notes I just wrote this song.
Like the first track was like a really wonderful introduction to the album. But like
this is where the album starts.
Yeah, the album starts here, and it's so good.
Yeah,
it's
this
so
song
good.
is basically vaporwave, right?
What?
It makes me feel like vaporwave. I know it's not. It doesn't sound like vaporwave, but it makes me feel like vaporwave aesthetics make me feel. Am I wrong?
Like very loose.
Like it also remember like C-punk, that whole movement on like Tumblr.
Yeah.
Where it's like cyberpunk, but instead of like cities and technology, it was like 3D dolphins and stuff.
Yes.
Like that's what this song makes me think of.
Really?
I see like a 3D ocean with like pixelated little waves, and Shinji's like swimming.
I think they're only like tangentially related because blue's in the title, and like I don't know, blue's the color of the ocean. I don't know. Like I get what you're saying, but I would never make that connection.
What does it make you think of?
Flutes.
Oh, flutes. He says bukake in the song. Why? He doesn't actually say bukake. It just sounds like it. What else? Yo, the big goofy drums. There are these big like boom 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 drums in the song, and they're very aggressive and like bouncy.
Are they the ones that like start the track off?
Yeah, they start the track off, but they also reappear, and every time they reappear, I'm kind of like, okay.
They're kind of it's the Motegi drum sound. Those are like the
But still, like the song is really dynamic. There's a section in the middle where the instrumentation is kind of switched up. You have this like violin moment from Hanzi where everything really builds. There's this really cool crescendo, and then it kind of drops back into that thing. I know, Chris, your problem with this track is that you say it's a little bit too long.
It's not a problem.
Oh, I disagree.
I don't actually think I don't think it's too long, but I know what people.
It reaches
would
a
say.
point where it starts kind of like doing the same thing over and over again. But for me, like the thing that it's doing is so perfect. I could live in this song for like 20 years.
Oh yeah, no, that's how I feel.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Because I know one person in particular, that person being Kyle. If you're listening to this, I'm calling you out. He said the song's really boring. I think it's because it's like 6 minutes. It's a lot of like that
boring,
that flute melody being repeated, especially near the end. It doesn't really end.
See, I don't understand how someone could listen to like Long Season and think that is interesting, but then listen to this and think that it's boring. This is like so engaging. This is like just an immediate like sugar rush into your veins.
Kyle, we're coming after you.
Okay, I don't even know Kyle. All right. Anything else about Baby Blue? A perfect song.
It's the actual beginning of the album.
And then the album comes to like a crashing halt with the third track, Slow Days.
La 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 la, la la la, la la la, la 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 la, la la la, la la la. Oh, summer sunset.
So actually, this has a cool cameo appearance. Suguri Yoshinaga from Orange, the Buffalo Daughter guitarist who we misgendered on our show. She reappears to play guitar on this track.
Also, let it be known that the album does not come to a crashing
Oh no, I was
halt
just
here.
joking.
This is the worst song on the album. That does not mean it comes to a crashing halt.
Yeah, so this one, it definitely is like the black sheep of the album in terms of it sounds very different. And like this album is really dynamic, but for some reason, this one it definitely sounds like it's from the Orange era. It has this like really guitar heavy sound that's kind of jarring after the chill vibe of the first two tracks. And I guess I was reading online that some people speculate that like Sugar's inclusion implies that this was written and maybe even recorded like during the Orange sessions, but no one's really sure.
It
maybe.
sounds like Orange, but it also kind of sounds like Kūchū.
Yeah, it sounds too much like Kūchū for me to think that it was from Orange. And also like some of the English lyrics in the song say orange days, orange sky.
I think it's a good thing it didn't end up on Orange.
It's definitely a spiritual sequel to Orange. I don't know.
I guess so.
This track is really good, but yeah. But I wonder if it had been on Orange, it might have been one of those songs that's on an album where like it's kind of serving as the title track because it has a lyric that is the title.
Yeah.
Because he's saying Orange in the song, but like that's not the title of the song.
I get that's the reason I didn't want it to be on Orange. 'Cause that would just be really dumb.
Orange. Yeah. No, it's like what's strange about the vibe of this track is that it feels super aggressive due to that guitar tone, but like it's pretty laid back. So it occupies this weird middle ground where like I can't really relax when I'm listening to the song because like the guitar goes too hard, but I also can't really like groove out. I think it's stuck in this strange little like tonal.
That's true, but there is a nice little breakdown before like the final.
Yeah,
chorus.
the middle. Oh,
that's really good.
It gets like super spacey, and the really aggressive guitar breaks from the mix, and then it drops back into that part eventually. But I think this track, what I wrote down is that it kind of evokes the album cover, since it feels like you're trying to like float and like escape the pull of gravity, but you end up like coming back down to the earth.
Oh,
and
man.
that guitar kind of represents like the grainy texture of the earth below you.
Wow, you really are an English teacher. I really like Shinji's vocals near the end of this. They get really bad.
Oh yeah, this is we forgot to say that like the Setagaya Trilogy is also the point where Shinji just starts sounding like a baby on every song. And he really just starts wailing at the top of his lungs. I think they sound great here. Like
Yeah, I don't think
he's
they sound
in
bad,
tune.
but- yeah, he just sounds like a crying baby.
Yeah, this song is, I guess it's just kind of, it's jarring. That's the word that I would use. But
It's jarring and it's also kind of boring.
I think I love it. After a couple listens,
I really like this song.
it opens itself up to you.
I really like this song. Don't
But honestly, I guess my only hot take would be, I think it really is just like that harsh guitar tone that draws me out of it a little. And I think that's Sugar Yoshinaga.
yeah, but like I didn't.
So I don't think they should have brought her back.
I think the guitar is fine.
I don't know. Or just the way it's mixed, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
I mean, it's beautiful. It's perfect.
This is a perfect.
We're really nitpicking at this point. Anything else you got about Slow Days?
Slow days.
It's you're just gonna keep saying the names of the songs. It's good. All right. Track number 4 is Sunny Blue.
Oh man, this song's so cool.
I wrote bangin'.
Wow,
This
that's one of
is-
your adjectives.
This is objectively the hardest that Fishmans would ever go on a studio album, I think.
Yeah.
Like it's a straight up like rock song.
Wow, I think the Hicksville mixed version is a little better, but don't tell anyone I said that.
Hey.
Actually, wait, I don't think that's true, but it's really good. Listen.
My
to
favorite
it.
part of the song is the little like ooh, those little moments that come in. Like Shinji will say a line, and then in the background there's like a ooh.
Oh yeah, on the downbeat.
I don't know if it's a sample or if it's like a vocal that they've just manipulated to sound like a sample, but it's definitely very hip hop. Ooh.
I think my favorite part of the track is that raucous scraping synth tone that plays that melody.
Raucous, because it's a rock song. Yeah.
It's such a
You mean the synth melody that comes in about like halfway through?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Do 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 do. Oh yeah, that's really cool. This sounds like a racing music or like a Sonic the Hedgehog kind of thing,
It's true.
right? I looked at the lyrics and the lyrics are not about racing at all. It's just about like normal Fishmans kind of lyrical themes. But it really does sound like, or maybe you know those like arcade games where you like sit in like a fake little car and there's like horrible graphics. And whenever you barely move the wheel, you like crash into a wall. That's what this sounds like the soundtrack to.
Ooh. We mean that endearingly.
But the song is like weirdly badass. Like the guitar stuff that Kogure is doing is really over the top. He's like shredding and being really noisy in a way that like pretty much no other Fishmans tracks do, at least on a studio album.
on a studio.
Yeah.
album, there you go.
And Shinji sounds like threatening on this track.
But he also still kind of sounds like a baby.
Oh my god, that's literally what I wrote.
He's like a threatening little
I wrote, Shinji sounds kind of threatening on this track. Normally he sounds like baby, but here he sounds kind of badass.
That's true. Oh, like he sounds like the boss baby.
He sounds like a little punk.
There you go.
Yeah, no, and that synth that joins the mix is really cool. It kind of like, it feels like if this is a racing game, then that when that synth comes in, that's like the moment in a racing movie where they turn on like the nitro, or they like
Nitro cold brew.
Chris works at Starbucks. No, it makes me feel like I'm drinking a gallon of nuclear gasoline, like I'm just guzzling like
And then
jet
you like
fuel.
Yeah, you walk out into the street and like kick someone's like child.
I guess. No, but this is cool Fishmans, man.
It's so cool.
I think the only other Fishmans song that comes close to this in terms of just like the way it makes me feel is Doyobi no Yoru, not because of like the sound, but just because that song, they had like this effortless cool about them that they sort of have here too. Like when I listen to Shinji on this track, I don't think he's like a nerd, which he was. I think that he's like a member of the Yakuza or something.
I don't think he was either of those things. I think he was just like a dude.
Oh, you're right.
He's like a cool guy, you know.
Sunny Blue. Once again, this is kind of a song that would be expanded a lot to like insane lengths on future live albums.
Man, that version on the 96 one, 96, 12, 12.
Oh my god. Man. But this version is really good. Like, I think this one's different enough from those that it doesn't suffer. That's sort of the difference between this and Zutomai, is that Zutomai seems like it was only like expanded on the live albums, but this one was totally like re-envisioned. So when I listen to this studio version, I feel like I'm getting like a totally different song, which is good. It's amazing.
I accidentally hit the mic, I'm sorry.
Next track?
Wait, hold on. Sunny Blue.
All right, the next track is the lead single of the album, Night Cruising.
Night cruising. Night cruising.
So if Sunny Blue is the soundtrack to a crazy drag race in the middle of the day, city streets.
I wonder where this is going.
Night Cruising is the soundtrack to you just cruising around at night.
And it's true. I can attest to this. I've cruised around at night to the song.
So have I.
Oh.
We did it together.
Oh.
So here is where I wanted to talk about the sequencing on this album. I think up until this point it's been perfect, but I don't know if this track works really well directly after Sunny Blue, because like that song is so hyperactive and just like intense that then we immediately drop into this, and this one is just chill from the start, and it always is a little bit strange to me. Like I almost think Night Cruising would have been better suited near the end of the album, like maybe before the last track. Am I off base?
You're not off base. I don't have too much of a problem with it, but you're not off base. You're on base.
Yeah,
Not
I mean,
completely.
it's just kind of, I feel like it almost sort of numbs the emotional impact of the song. Like if it had been nearer to the end, it would have had like more nostalgic weight. But because it's so early, I'm just like, oh hey, it's Night Cruising, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, either way, it was a perfect song.
It's so good. Like it's I know there's a few comments on Rate Your Music. It was either on this or the Baby Blue single where someone they commented the fact that the song is only 2 chords. I don't really care. But
Oh yeah, no. So this one, like, I was reading that Shinji and Zach purposefully tried to like strip down Fishman's sound into like the most bare elements on this album.
they
And sometimes
really
you don't
did.
really get it because I mean, like Sunny Blue's really busy, but this track, no, it's totally just like a couple things happening. But the things are so effective that it's great.
And like near the end, like there's enough like melodic variation with what Shinji's singing like in the first half of the song. And then the second half of the song is just like a lot of really, really pleasant noises. Just kind of
Yeah.
like building on top of each other until it finally ends.
I
There's a whole lot
think
of
it's kind
progression.
of like post-rocky, but in a way that's like fast. You know what I mean? Like it almost reminded me of like a Sigaros kind of track with like they have that Untitled 3 on that one album where it's
Yeah.
just like this piano sort of playing the same melody over and over, but it does slowly shift. And that sort of, I don't know, this feels like a bit more like caffeinated version of that.
It's funny you say that because like you're right, but it's also a really sleepy track still.
Oh yeah, I
It's
just mean
so
compared to like some really sleepy post-rock. But still, it's just like so different from everything that they've done. And I think it was a really bold choice to have this be the lead single, but I guess they really wanted, like they knew how good the track was, and they also probably wanted to signal to the world or their fans that like they were really radically switching up their sound.
And it does, like despite it's kind of just like a chill out track. It's also, I don't know, it's not that sleepy.
Yeah, no,
It's
but
like
it's definitely like, I would say on this album, it's the furthest thing from a pop song.
That's true. Too.
Which is, yeah, but it's cool because it's like the 3rd most popular Fishman song on Spotify.
It's kind of the other Fishman song.
Yeah, which is really cool because it's almost like one of their more, at least up until this point, it was one of their more experimental tracks, aside from like Reindeer or something like that.
That doesn't count.
So these lyrics, we actually get a lot of English lyrics on this song, mainly just up and down, slow, fast, slow, fast. I always thought he was saying
So fast.
so fast, but no, it's slow, fast. What's he talking about?
Sex.
Yeah.
Well, probably not.
Actually,
yeah,
no, because I looked at the lyrics and I also read about the background.
Don't touch me.
The wiki, written by,
Kyle and a few other people.
yeah, shout out to wiki writers. It says that Shinji first conceived the song after he received his driver's license in 1995. It was right after the label transfer, and he sort of was like just driving around Tokyo, and he wrote this song about that experience and just the stuff he saw. This was adorable.
Man, this is my favorite Fishman song now.
And I remember because like I went to Japan once. We had like a tour guide, right? It was like a school trip, and he lived in Tokyo, and he was telling us how like a lot of people in Tokyo, and I would assume like many large cities, they don't have cars because like everything's so close. There's nowhere to park. They live in like tiny ass apartments. So he had never driven a car, and that's probably, I mean, you know, we live in Arizona and like everybody has a car. We are always driving around, but I think it's
even
cool.
In Phoenix.
Even in Phoenix, yeah, because I mean that's definitely like an American. Like even in some European cities, people don't have a ton of cars. So I don't know. I think the song has an interesting perspective. Like sort of, it's almost like driving through a child's eyes, because like so many of us have grown up doing this, but like he might have been used to like trains and stuff. So it's almost like him going out with his driver's license is like this newfound freedom, and he's able to see the world like through.
Wow,
a
they
new
really
lens.
presented that musically very well.
They did.
That's exactly what the song sounds like.
So there's like this sample that comes in near the back of the track. Is it astronauts?
Yeah, it's one of the voyages to the moon. It's just like the communications that was going on when they were floating around the moon.
That's really cool, because like I think at first I kind of wondered why that was included in the track. But I guess now that I know the background, it's almost like when he's driving around the city, he's seeing all these lights and he feels like he's on like another planet, or he's seeing it through sort of like an explorer's eyes.
That, and also it sounds really cool on the
Yeah,
track.
but he might have felt like an astronaut.
Aw.
His little moon rover.
Aw.
Petition for this to be like the first Fishman song played on the moon, if we ever get to that point.
The first song to be played on the moon.
I mean, I'm sure they've played a song on the moon already.
No, they haven't.
It was probably like something dumb.
It's probably like Guns N' Roses.
Ugh. So here's a hot take. This is actually my least favorite version of this song. Because, I don't know, we get so many cool ones later, and there's just infinite versions of Night Cruising, and I don't want to talk too much about it, but like the one on Hachigatsu for me is a little bit more pleasant and smooth, and the one on 98 is just like insanely emotional due to the weight of that album. So I don't know, something about this one, like this one's great because it's my first introduction to the song, but it's a little uneventful compared to later ones, but I still think it's like a super bold track, especially given the context of when it was released. Like maybe us now looking back on Fishmans, like knowing where they would go later with Long Season, like we know that they get more experimental, but I think if we had been alive at the time, this would have been like kind of shocking to us.
True. If we're talking about different versions, this isn't my favorite, but I would put it right below the 98 version, personally, only
You're
because
valid.
You're right that it's very emotional, but it's kind of like what I said about Zuto Mai, where it's like, usually I would rather just listen to the album version because I'm not ready for that
Not
sort
ready.
of
Yeah, no,
emotional
that's true. I
experience.
do listen to this one more than I listen to that one.
Also, can we talk about the single cover for this track? I don't know if you've seen
I haven't seen it. What is it?
it. Pull it up.
Oh, here we go. Oh, there it is. They're like, oh yeah, I've seen that. They're like, I know, it's not gonna load.
Oh, man.
They're in sleeping bags.
They're in sleeping bags, and it's
It's
so
cute.
nice. They're all just together. They're just huddled together, and I'm like, why
That's
can't I
the
have
vibe.
that? Hold on, I just need to look at
Chris,
it.
don't be sad.
I just want to see it like in its full glory. Oh man.
It's one of those covers that isn't a square.
Oh man, is that like a cup of lean in Motogi's hand?
Damn.
It was like-
Motogi, more like young lean.
That wasn't very good.
Okay. We try. Yeah, this song is really good, and it's very unique. And this is sort of, an example of what Chris was saying about the tumultuous. That wasn't your letter. It could have been. It wasn't your word. But no. But I mean, like, sort of the wide range of emotions on this album. Because I mean, right after Sunny Blue, where you talked about how like it makes you want to kick a child, like then we get this song where it's really laid back and chill, and it makes you want to like not kick a child.
I want to be a child.
I want to be
that
a
gets
child.
kicked.
You might want to go get that checked out.
All right.
All right, track number 6 is Shiawase.
Wait. Night Cruising.
Track number 6 is Shiawase Sha, or A Happy Person.
置物みたいな暇人あるちが店の中で
This sort of, I guess, continues a trend of Fishman songs being titled like a so-and-so person. Because, I mean, on Neo Yankees we had a tired person, and now we have a happy person, and then later on we'll have a new person.
What's up? Is it the same person?
Oh, hey, this is a good Fuck, Marry, Kill. Those 3 tracks, the 3 Fishman's person tracks.
I would copulate with, probably with a happy person.
Okay, interesting.
I would marry a new person.
Okay.
And we've done this before, and I would kill a tired person.
Oh yeah, you're definitely killing a tired person. I guess I would just switch it though, because I feel like a happy person makes me feel a little bit more like happy than a new person. A new person is kind of just like intense. So I would switch it. I would marry
It gives me
a happy person.
It's,
We're trying not to swear because we're in Chris's house and it's forbidden.
It's not like we normally swear that much on these podcasts anyway.
I mean, sometimes.
All right. Anyway.
Chops came on and he was like, "Can I swear?" And we told him he could. And then he's like, "Bastard."
And we're like, oh, no, not that one.
It was kind of funny.
Okay.
So anyway, I think this is the most underrated song on the album. It's sort of like the Kūchū Camp type beat, if you will, because at this point in the album we've heard so many different things. This track doesn't really introduce anything new to the table. It's kind of playing with sounds that we've already heard in the album, but like it's doing it very well.
Say better than some
Say
other tracks?
better. This is definitely the most emotional song on this album for me. I know that would probably be Night Cruising for a lot of people, but I think the outro to this track is really like where I start feeling it.
No, I would still say Night Cruising's more emotional than this one to me, but this comes very close.
Yes.
This would be the second most emotional.
This is
song.
also kind of like a loosely structured track. I mean, maybe not quite as like bare bones as Night Cruising, but there's sort of like a hook near the beginning, but it really only repeats once, and then it fades away near the middle of the track, and the outro of the song is completely different. It's almost like kind of progressive pop a little bit.
Wow, they really be progressing the pop game.
It's just cool because like I can't really think up until this point of another Fishman song that had that kind of structure. The outro though, that's really the only part that matters, right?
Well, that and also that is it the second chorus or the first chorus? I guess is it really a chorus? It's the chorus where there's like that like slidey synth that like goes up and down.
Oh yeah, that's so cool.
That's what I mean.
But I'm talking about like this melody. I'm not sure if it's on like a synth or keyboard or a guitar or whatever, but it comes in near the end and it's kind of faded, and it's like ba 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 ba.
And then you got like some voice in the back like.
I just assumed that was Shinji just muttering, but maybe not.
Probably.
It's a heartbreaking melody. It's so sad.
Oh.
Just the build-up of this song, like I said, it kind of just like goes to that place, and that's when the melody comes in. It's really cool, and like they could have pulled the Night Cruising and just had that melody going on the entire time, but I don't think that would have been as effective
Also,
as it is.
a very small detail. The very end of this track, there's like this like delay effect. And it's like and then it gets like filtered and there's a bunch of reverb, and it's just like this nice little this ambient outro that lasts like 10 seconds.
Cool.
And it's so good.
Like, am I wrong in thinking that this is underrated? Like, I feel like I just don't see people talk about this one quite as much as they do the other tracks on this album.
You might have a point, but to be fair, they did include it.
Yeah, it's on the live album. I was gonna say I'm really glad that it is, and that kind of shows like they made some bold choices for that set list on the live album '98, because like they could have chosen Baby Blue, which was like a single.
We'll get there when we talk about that.
We'll get there, but I'm just glad that this found a home there, and that maybe some more people will find it because of that. So this was the main one that I wanted to talk about the lyrics to, because I really like when I read Chops' translation, I was kind of amazed with just like how concise the storytelling was with these lyrics. So I'm just gonna read the whole thing to you. It's not too long.
Okay.
So picture this. Like a display decoration, the bored husband sits in the shop, looking at something with all of his might. Everyone is living so self-absorbed. All of this world's unhappiness comes from worry. All of this world's unhappiness is just manipulated feelings and fake smiles. If we all live self-absorbed, anything will do. I only really know about her, and the music continues to sing in my chest. I only really know about her, even in my dreams, thoughts of her come to me. It is fine just like that. So really where this lines up in the song is like the final part where he's talking about how he like doesn't know her, and like he's just dreaming about her, but he's like, I guess that'll be fine. That's sort of when the outro comes in. So to me that was like, oh, because it's just like this sad homie just like sitting alone, and then all this like yearning. Oh, it's so good.
I can't believe Shinji Sato is the greatest songwriter of all time.
Damn, Shinji. It's just, I don't know, just reading this and like, without even hearing the track while I was reading the translated lyrics, I just knew like when they were happening. It's a perfect fusion of like meaning and musical emotion. Oh, this song is so good.
It's really good. This used to be my least favorite song.
Yeah, and that's I'm like I could see that happening, and I think
Used to be.
We'll talk about Kūchū on another episode, but I know on Kūchū, I think this song kind of fulfills the same role as In the Backbeat, because that's another track where like it comes a little bit later in that album, and by the time you reach it, you're like, okay, like it sounds like this, and it's not really doing
like 8 minutes long.
It's not really doing anything like super exciting, but these songs are just like solid Fishman songs, and more so than being like a Kūchū Camp song, it's kind of just like this is the sound of the Setagaya Trilogy to me.
And I'm not trying to involve Kūchū too much in this conversation, but of all the tracks I would compare this to on Kūchū, I'd probably say Ushuru Sugata is probably a better comparison.
Yeah, that's true, with like an outro, yeah.
And that, and just because like it's the one that I kind of forget about.
Okay.
Not in a bad way. It's like a perfect song. I just mean it's that track that I know is there, and I know it's coming, and I know I love it. But I never really think about it.
Yeah, it's almost
like
like before I listened to this album today in prep for this podcast, I was like trying to rank the songs in my head, and I was like, oh yeah, there's also like A Happy Person, like that's a song on there. And it wasn't until I actually heard it again that I was like, oh, it's so good.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it kind of fades into memory, so don't let this one pass you by. If you've heard Kūchū like once or twice, just go listen to this on repeat. It'll be like one of your favorite Fishman songs.
Are you gaslighting people?
I am. It's so good. And Shinji knew it too because they played it at their final show.
It's like the lowest rated song on that album.
Oh no.
On Rate Your Music.
It's so sad. What about this album? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, who knows? It probably is.
Well, actually, I only.
Oh, Slow Days.
Yeah.
People hate Slow Days. I don't.
it's
We
a
love
favorite
all
song.
Fishman songs. You're all equally valid. They're like our children at this point.
We're like 20 years younger than that.
But you're still gonna like. No, I mean because like everyone loves all their children, but like you still have a favorite child.
Oh, that's what you mean. Oh.
Yeah. Like I mean, if we gave birth to all these songs, I'd kind of be like, "Hey, Slow Days," and he's like, "Hey, Dad. Like, do you love me?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, like how I'm the least favorite kid in the family. All right.
Anyway, the seventh track is Subarashikute Nice Choice, which translates to That's a Wonderful Nice Choice.
Suppose we change names so me and my father could get something to eat. Why not? So you're my father, man. All right, then get lost. I gotta make some money.
This is also, I guess, like a callback to the Orange cover, where it had like a little sticker on it that said "Nice choice." So maybe like Slow Days, maybe this was a song that like originated from those sessions, or maybe it's sort of just like a tongue-in-cheek like Easter egg.
Also, this track is really dark.
It's so yeah, it is. Like it's the dangerous fishmen who were in Sunny Blue. Like they came back, but this time they're like evil. Like in Sunny Blue, like Shinji sounds a little mischievous, but here he sounds like a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, are they doing drugs?
I'm a little skeptical calling him a villain. I feel like he's just like on a lot of drugs and he's just unhappy and in despair.
So we can talk about this, but I'm not sure if Shinji is on drugs in the song or if he's like a ghost. Here, we'll get to this. I have a weird theory about this song. But first, like this song opens with a sample of some. I'm assuming he's like an American guy, and he's saying like
It's from a movie.
It's from. Oh, do you know what movie it's from?
No, but I know it's. I can
Okay.
find it.
Okay, it's from a movie, but he's saying like, I couldn't get the whole thing, but he's like, I'm gonna get something to eat, take a shower, get something to eat. At 3 o'clock, I'm gonna rob the streets. Keep going until 6, 7 o'clock, and then I go get my drugs, get my poon, get my whoever I'm gonna sleep with for that night. Why?
It'd be really funny if the song has this intro and then it's just about Fishman stuff. Like it has nothing to do
It's
with
not though.
Yeah, true.
So this is like a hip hop song because it has that intro, the beat. Like this is the most straight up.
Oh, also those chords in the beginning.
chords.
So good. Like,
Yeah, because it's also like it's both sinister, but it's also like epic. Like I
Yeah.
see like a big city, but there's like storm clouds above it, and there's like evil spirits brewing. Ugh.
now brewing.
Shinji sounds possessed. He's singing in like a lower register than he usually does. Yeah. But like the murky atmosphere of the song, there's like this weird sense of grandeur that's going on to everything. It feels like he's like about to die. So without checking the lyrics, I always assume the song was like him just singing about being on drugs. But I also thought that he's singing about like the dangers of drug abuse, because to me it's like almost like a call and response. Like there's the intro where the guy's like, I'm gonna go do some drugs, right? He's like a Lil Pump character. He's like, I'm a drug addict, right? And then Shinji comes in and he's like, ooh. It's almost sort of like a Christmas Carol. I was gonna say A Christmas Story. That's not the same thing.
That's not
A Christmas Carol. No, so I think like Shinji, I always thought he was like singing from the perspective of someone who like died of like a drug overdose, right? And he's like haunting this guy, and I always assumed the lyrics were like, don't do drugs, you're gonna die.
Ooh, that's really funny.
Yeah, but but I always thought it was kind of sarcastic, right? Because he's saying like, oh, like that's a wonderful, nice choice.
I was gonna say the title is kind of tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, like good for you, kid. Like you're doing drugs, aren't you cool? You know what I mean? Like you'll regret it when you're dead, like me. So I pictured like this evil like Shinji ghost like floating around the head of this young drug addict and haunting him. But I checked the lyrics; they were super vague and obscure, so I guess they don't confirm or deny this. But there were a few select ones that seem to reinforce the theory, because Shinji sings "Gently meet fate and laugh at fate." So I don't know if he's saying that he's doing that or if he's like, you shouldn't laugh at fate. And there's also
really hard.
Right?
That's my new rapper name.
Gently meet fate and laugh at fate. My favorite rapper. There's also a line about demons falling from above.
Ooh.
What? So this song is like, it's very clearly like about something supernatural.
Yeah.
Which is so cool, because like so many other Fishmans lyrics are just about like love
Or
and like
no love.
no love, kind of like on that incel shit. You know, here it's like something apocalyptic is happening. It's so cool. Ah. I love this song. So this is definitely the darkest Fishman song ever. Right? There are demons falling from the sky. There's a young man.
I'm trying to think of like a
doing
darker
drugs.
like, sounding Fishman song, but I think in terms
Maybe
of
like
lyrics,
you're gonna hate this, Pacific Ocean. Not wrong.
I was gonna say like, I don't know.
Or something on like Kingmaster.
I was gonna say like Reindeer, but that's more like
Yeah.
twisted than it is.
Yeah, that's just like, "Whoa, look at us. We made a weird like jazz song." Yeah, no, this is like kind of evil. I also said this track cements Kūchū as Fishman's most, and I'm doing like finger quotes, urban album. Maybe right behind Kingmaster George, because I feel like Kingmaster definitely takes place in like a city.
I feel like you mean urban more literally than like the Grammys say urban. So
Yeah,
you
no,
don't
I
have to
mean
use
urban
the
like
verb.
this
Actually
is in a city, yeah. Like especially at this point we've gotten like Sunny Blue and Night Cruising and now Nice Choice. These are all songs where I picture like huge skyscrapers and just like urban sprawl and like concrete.
Oh, it's pretty cool because this is an urban album, and then you could say like Long Season's like a rural album, and then Uchu Nippon Setagaya.
It's like a space album.
That's crazy how it works.
Yup. They're definitely, it's a trilogy. So, but yeah, just like this smoggy, like electric vibe going on here. And the hip hop drums on this track, specifically on this album,
They really hit.
They really hit. And I think honestly, like Kūchū is probably Fishman's best aged album, just because of like the kind of,
Really?
I don't know, like the kind of music that's popular right now. It's like how Neo Yankees has aged the worst because
Yeah.
it's doing all these like 90s cliches. But I think, I don't know, like all the hip hop elements in Kūchū really still hold, at least for me.
I feel like them because there's a good amount of songs in this album that do some trip hop flavors, and I just feel like trip hop is very firmly cemented in like the early 2000s and then.
That's true, but also I guess if you would say that Uchu,
I was gonna say Uchu sounds just a little bit more.
but
timeless.
Uchu's also playing with these kind of like down tempo sounds that are also very like.
Sometimes, but I think there's just enough.
Yeah.
Like, sort of like dreamy, like post rock.
I don't know. I think the difference though is like when I hear trip hop, and it's like British trip hop, that's what I associate with the 90s, because I think of like Massive Attack and like, you know, yeah.
The only trip hop
Massive
artist.
Attack. But something about, I don't
Who's
know.
the other one? You could say Moby.
Moby,
But, like, who-
Gorillas.
I know there's. Shut up.
No, but yeah, the trip hop here is, it just doesn't sound like that trip hop. So that's why I guess it sounds a little bit more current. But yeah, I'm finna nominate Kūchū Camp for the best urban contemporary album at the Grammys.
There's the other one.
He
'cause they-
Googles trip hop.
Portishead.
Oh, Portishead, duh.
Whoops. But they're trip hop, but they're more like funky jazz.
Getting sucked off in the ocean, call that Porpoise Head. Okay.
Next track.
Next track, well, the final track. Man, this album's only 8 songs. This one is Atarashi Hito, or A New Person, or just New Person.
Oh, this is the best Fishman song.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
It's not. But
apparently, some sources list this as a bonus track.
What?
Like maybe originally this might have been a bonus track, but it's not. Like it shouldn't be.
Yeah, no. Imagine this album ending with nice.
Yeah, like
choice.
nice choice. It also just fades out like very abruptly. That would have been a horrible ending. This is very clearly like the ending to the album.
And let me tell you, this is. Bear with me here. This
Yeah.
is probably one of the strangest sounding Fishman songs I've ever heard. And like I can explain it better if you like want to.
Yeah, no, because I guess for me, I distinctly remember this is like one of their most immediate songs for me. Because like back when Chris was getting me into the band, we were just listening to everything chronologically after we had listened to like Kingmaster. So we were driving around one night just listening to Kūchū, and like by the time we got to this song, just off the bat, I was like, oh, like this is the song.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I mean, I always talk about Gorillaz, but it's because like this really does sound like a Phase 1, like Gorillaz self-titled kind of track. But better. No, because like, you know, you got that dubby element. This is probably like Fishman's most dubby track up to this point. And the synth melody that keeps coming in sounds like a melodica. And it's just super sparse, and it's very hip-hoppy once again. But it's just like, it's so simple.
It's so simple.
It
It's
just
also,
hit. I don't know, it hit me really quick.
It's so spacey.
Yeah.
It's so like I feel like I'm stoned out of my mind when this song plays.
Oh, and I was gonna say, I have a little story for you. Do you want to hear my little story?
Have I heard it before?
Maybe. I think I told you, sort of. So, I was in Colorado last week. I went on a trip to Colorado with my dad.
I think you. Oh, maybe. you told me
Yeah,
about
so, you know, we're in Colorado, and what do they have in Colorado?
Mountains.
Well, we did hike, but they also have legal marijuana. And I was like, hey, I mean, I'm here. Why not shell out like a 20 and then see what I can get? So I bought like little chewable like edibles, right? And I take one night. We're back at the hotel. It had been like an hour, and stupid me, like I forgot that edibles take a long time to kick in because they don't just like immediately go into your bloodstream. You have to eat it, and then it like digests. It goes through your liver. So I had eaten one and nothing had happened for like an hour, and I was like, oh darn, I wasted my money, right? So I'm just laying in bed. I'm like, I guess I'll just listen to Fishmans. So I turned on, first I played Ikareta Baby, and then I played this. And around the end of Ikareta Baby, I was like, and then once Atsushi Hito started, I was like, oh. And that was the point when it hit. And I could tell because like, I mean, this song is pretty long, right? But it felt like it went on for like a year. Like I'm sitting there, and it was so peaceful. And there was a moment where I was like, damn, like I've been listening to Atsushi Hito for like a while now. And I pick up my phone, and we were only like a minute into the track. And I'm like, ah. And then the trip ended horribly, and like I ended up in like cold sweats, and my heart was racing, and I wanted to die, and like my throat closed up. But for the first part of it, where I was listening to Fishmans, it was very nice.
Yeah, no, this is the song you play when you have an edible. Like, let me tell you.
Chris doesn't know.
I don't know, but I just assume this is the one you'd go for. And I've mentioned this multiple times. I've not mentioned on the podcast because we're just now talking about the album. I just distinctly remember one night at like a donut shop at like 1 a.m. I'm doing my homework with this like on repeat, and I'm like half asleep doing like macroeconomics homework, and this is just like ingrained in my mind at this point because it's just I was just looping it.
So,
like, wow.
I mean, I know you told me that you were a little bit kind of iffy on this track at first, right?
Yeah, because it's so simple, and it doesn't seem to like do anything. And I showed another one of my friends, that friend being Ian, and he was like, yeah, that's kind of like an anticlimactic like ending to the album.
Yeah, like it doesn't really go anywhere, but I don't think that's the point. Like,
no, it's not.
It's definitely, it's sort of like its power lies in the repetition, and it's so lonely. And if you read the lyrics to this album, I mean, we did the one earlier, but a lot of these tracks are being like about being alone, and this song makes you feel like
I feel like I'm
like
in the middle of like an empty city at like 5 a.m.
Yeah, or like you've like left the city. And it's like, if we're gonna truly view Setagaya Trilogy as like a trilogy, then maybe
God.
this is the song where kind of like you're walking out of the city into the wilderness, and then the wilderness opens in long season. Yeah, but yeah, no, it's just like it's deceptively simple.
Might I say, because I was just about to call this song like it sounds like you're half asleep. Would it be fair to call this song hypnagogic?
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of, at least. It's very hazy.
So yeah, we mentioned the synth that comes in, the really cool whistling. It's sort of like Baby Blue, where there's only a few different things happening, but they all really add to the vibe of the track. But I think the most underrated part of this track is probably those little like ghostly moans that open it, and they sort of come in the back, but it almost sounds like wind. It's like,
Makes me feel this track. I think when I said this is like one of the strangest Fishmans tracks, is because it makes me feel the weirdest.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm. I don't know.
Yeah,
how I
like
feel.
it's not. It's kind of depressing, but it's also like what I would only say that the instrumental is depressing because Shinji's vocals are kind of like hopeful a little bit. It's a weird mix of emotions.
Of course, the sample that comes halfway through the little.
Well, yeah, there's a rain sound sample, but then after the rain sound sample, the beat kind of everything cuts out except for the beat, and then we just get it's like boom ah, and there's just a guy going ah. This is sort of like the second time Fishmans do this after Woofer Girl, where there's just like, whoo, ha. So like, why? They love men just going, oh.
Also, you're talking about like very few elements being, and that's the whole track. There's a couple of very, very small noises that happen, like near the beginning and like at the end, and they're like really hard to hear, but like without them it would make like a big difference. There's like this granular sound, like it's way in the background, but it's there throughout like most of the track. And there's also this little like hissing noise that plays for like a split second, like every so often in the beat, and I'm just like, they really put those sounds in there, and they don't immediately have any impact until you like recognize that they're
there's
there.
a lot like there's a lot going on like behind the scenes, and just like I mean, you've said that the song is psychedelic, and I sort of disagreed with you because like, you know, to
I was
me
thinking about it, and that's why I settled on Hypnagogue.
yeah, because like to me psychedelia is a bit more complex. It's like different things happening over each other to make this like weird collage, but also I mean, this song definitely has a psychedelic effect on you, even if the song is not psychedelic. But I don't know, like maybe it is. But yeah, it's just like, also with that ah sound. Wasn't there a video recently that Motegi posted on Twitter where like he's playing drums and like he uses like the ah sound again?
Yeah.
And it was like the exact same ah sound, right?
He only has like 2 sounds in the sample library.
I just think it's really funny that we're like over 20 years after this album came out and Motegi is really still going like ah.
Good for you, man. Keep
So
it going.
funny.
I love you.
But yeah, like it's almost like yearning mixed with dread, mixed with like a bleak hope all together. But I think what's cool about this is that like it's honestly the perfect way to close out the album, because the whole album has been so scattershot with its emotions that this track kind of puts them all together in like one thing. Like it feels like a perfect follow-up to Nice Choice because it has that like ghostly fear element, but you also get some of the beauty of some of the earlier tracks. And it makes this weird color that it's like a gray. I'm not sure how to feel about it.
It's definitely a gray. Again, another small detail I forgot to mention. There's so much reverb on Shinji's voice. Like when he's singing, you don't hear it, but there's just this giant tail of reverb that like exits his voice as he finishes a phrase. And it's like, oh, that's so much reverb.
This is kind of like the best Fishman song.
Fishman song.
I mean, actually, my favorite Fishman song is another version of this song, and we'll get to that later. Oh my god, it's the perfect closer. And like, by the time this album is over, I mean, none of the songs really pass like 7-minute mark, right? But it just feels like a full album, even though it's a little bit shorter than some of their previous ones.
You say it's shorter, it's like still 45 minutes long.
Yeah, but I mean, they were making like 50-minute albums before.
Oh yeah.
Or like Oh Mountain was like over an hour. So I love every track is so unique. And that's what really separates this from stuff like Kūchū or even their earlier albums for me, is that I think every other Fishmans album has like a distinct vibe. Like you go into the album and you know you're kind of getting like variations on one thing, but not so much here. But it's still cohesive.
That's how an album should be.
Yeah.
Not should be, but I feel like a lot of great albums are consistent, but they do a lot of things.
Yeah,
That's
and that's what makes me want to revisit this a little bit more than other Fishmans albums. So I do disagree with Shinji with one thing. He said in regards to this album, or I guess the whole band did, that it was like one song in 8 parts.
No.
And that I guess that was sort of what inspired them to actually make a longer song in a bunch of parts, like Long Season. But this song, like these songs are not similar at all. Like they're consistent in terms of the kind of instruments and just like vague things, but not in terms of actual sound.
I wonder if they were just like tying together these vague thematic elements and saying
being
it's
alone.
It's like, wow, the album progresses to a certain point near the end, as if like other albums don't. Like plenty of albums do that.
Yeah.
Linear progression is kind of just a natural thing that happens in music.
Yeah.
But you know, it's cool. I'll let them happen.
I guess what I mean is like I think the album was Shrines by Purity Ring. There was like a Pitchfork review of it back in the day that I really remember, and that's one of those albums where like every song kind of sounds the same. And the Pitchfork review was like, you know, every song is almost like you're looking at a statue from a different angle. And I think that's what Shinji was trying to say that Kūchū is, but it's really not. I think this album is like 8 different statues. And they're all like very well sculpted, and they're doing different things, but they're all made by like the same sculptor, and they're all from like the same series of statues.
The statue that Slow Days is just someone sitting down.
Yeah, the statue that's like Sunny Blue is someone jumping
a
I was gonna say jumping for joy after they kick a child.
Yeah, the one for Atarashi Hito is nothing.
Oh, modern art.
A new person, but there's not a person.
It's just like the base of a statue with like a foot on it.
Oh.
So yeah, that's the album. I guess yeah. Final thoughts. So like our top 3 tracks. This was impossible for me because like I said, every song on here is perfect. I really wanted to put A Happy Person in my top 3, but it just barely missed because like the songs are so good. So my number 3 is Subarashikute. Nice choice. It's just so unique. It has a vibe that no other Fishman song has. Instrumentation is crazy. We forgot to mention that really cool like piano solo in that song.
Ooh.
Oh, it's so good. There's so many levels. It's great. It's number 3. What's your number 3?
Or number 3? I just realized. Shiwasesha.
Oh, nice.
That has grown on me like no other Fishman song has. That's not true, but it's definitely becoming a staple of the Fishman's music.
It's a staple. Call him Vince. I'm full of jokes today.
Number 2.
My number 2 is Baby Blue. I know this might be a hot take, and people are like, it's so popular, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just late to the party. But Baby Blue to me is just
most people would be fine with you having it at number 2.
It's a perfect song, man. It's a pop song. I love it. It's just that flute. If that flute wasn't there, it wouldn't be my number 2.
But that bass too. I would honestly probably have it at number 4, but it does not crack my top 3.
Baby Blue.
I'm sorry.
What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Night Cruising.
Night Cruise. That's good because it's not in my top 3.
Exactly. See, these top 3s are gonna be very.
Look
different.
at us. We both put an accessible. They're all accessible. We both put a mainstream Fishman song as number 2.
That's right.
And I think I know what we both put as number 1. It's
man.
Atarashi Hito.
It's true.
Yeah. That's once again we agree. We should get another host who like doesn't agree with us.
Like my favorite song is actually Slow Days.
Man, the show's kind of just us jerking each other off. But yeah, it's the best song on the album. It's so unique, and it's just the perfect closer. And like,
It's a cat.
yeah. So our least favorite track is also the same. I would assume Slow Days. It's not really close. Like, there's no other track on this album that I would put as the worst track. It's like definitely Slow Days.
I'm sorry.
I'm
it's
sorry,
really
Slow Days.
good.
You're
it's
fun.
really good. It's better than like most songs.
Oh yeah, like compared to a lot of like stuff on earlier Fishman's albums, Slow Days is great. Like if Slow Days had appeared on like Neo Yankees, it would be in like my top 5.
I was more talking about like songs in general.
Or just songs in general,
It's
yeah.
better than, like,
oh
most
yeah.
songs.
That's what we mean. Like we're gonna be critical of stuff in the Setagaya Trilogy, but
Only
like
because we have to.
yeah, it's like criticizing. Like what's something that's perfect?
It depends on the person.
I don't know. Like the Bible. I mean, I don't know.
And we do that all the time.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's like you're reading the Bible and they're like, oh, this chapter was kind of poorly written.
It's like, yeah.
Like, yeah, I guess. I don't know.
I guess maybe it's not really the point of the Bible, but true.
Top 3 moments. Okay, I'll just do them all. My top 3 moments are just from my top 3 tracks, but like switched around. So number 3 would be the in Atarashi Hito. It's just like iconic. Whenever it comes in, I kind of laugh. That's another emotion that track conjures is like humor.
But like kind of a
But
weird
like a
sense
weird
of,
humor.
You're like, should I be laughing?
Yeah, my number 2 is the beefy flute in Baby Blue. It's just like, it's a fat flute, man.
Our definition of moment is very unclear.
Well, it's a moment because it's like one element. I don't know. It's the flute. The flute. It's a moment. And then number 1 is when I gotta go get my poon. That whole little monologue that opens up Subarashikute.
That'd probably be one of my favorite moments.
It's just so funny.
Okay, this one I didn't really think too hard about because I'm, again, an unprofessional podcast host.
Wow.
I guess my number 3 moment would probably be that second chorus in Baby Blue with the strings in it.
Oh, the string chorus. Oh!
That was, oh man, man.
It kind of goes from being like a boo to like a bah.
Yeah, you could say that. All right, I think my second favorite moment. Ooh, the melody in Zutomai.
Damn, you're just choosing a melody as a moment. I mean, I guess I chose a flute.
Yeah,
You're probably
that's
good.
why I said it. No, but especially the last time the melody is repeated.
Oh, yeah, that's valid.
Where it's coupled with like an actual violin. It's kind of hard to hear in the mix.
You're
but,
valid.
Yeah, but like that moment when that melody is cemented as like one of the best melodies ever written.
Melody.
My favorite moment. This one's a bit longer, but it's basically like the outro.
Drum roll.
You didn't get a drum roll. It's the outro to Atarashi Hito.
Oh.
It's less of an outro. It's more just like the elements slowly like fading away.
Yeah.
But what I said about Shinji's voice having a lot of reverb on it, the reverb on his voice is lost, but that reverb is then put onto that like harmonica. Like the harmonica and like the whistle now have like a bunch of reverb on it, and they're just like they just slowly get farther and farther
What if we
away.
took the reverb from Shinji's voice and moved it over there?
Alright, anyway, the outro to Atarashi Hito is
Man, also I gotta shout out the outro of A Happy Person. Because, I mean, like, it's
I
beautiful.
forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't include it as a moment just because it's, like, kind of long, but it's so good.
I counted the outro to...
So we'll give it, like, an honorary moment. I mean, this is going to be our podcast from here on out where every single moment is, like, a best moment.
Yeah, or we just kind of come up with things on the spot because we forgot to mention them earlier. Because there's so much to talk about.
So, yeah, this album is a 10 out of 10, a hard 10 out of 10.
It's a hard 10 out of 10.
Like, I
I'm
think,
sorry, guys.
you know, the only Fishmans album up until this point that I've given a 10 out of 10 was Kingmaster, but I think that was kind of a soft 10 out of 10. Like, it's a 10 out of 10, but there's stuff on that album that I don't really like. But here it's like, oh, like, I heard this album and I was like, damn, that's a 10 out of 10.
They're both hard 10 out of 10s for me. I would also give, like, Orange basically a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, okay,
You know,
you love Fishmans. That's why I'm here.
Thanks.
This is where Fishmans go from good, not even from good to great. They go from great to, like, incredible.
And we don't know why that is.
It's truly, like, an insane step up from Orange. And Orange is so good. And then you get here and you're just like, ah, like they became a new band. Maybe
That's what it
Hakase was
is.
holding them back.
Maybe, and that's what it is. They just end up doing completely different things that they weren't
Even
necessarily
attempting before.
Yeah, it isn't as if, because some people like to say, oh, these are like stepping stones into like what they'll become later, but like not really. Because I feel like after Orange, they just did different things.
It wasn't like stepping stones. It was like they just took an elevator up to like the 30th floor, and then it was like Kūchū time.
And like some people might say it was Zach, but like even Zach was
Zach
working on it
produced
before.
like Neo Yankees
Yeah.
Holiday. I don't know if it was Zach.
Now, of course, I don't want to discredit him because he definitely was
Oh, yeah.
like the reason some Fishman's tracks are as good as they are. Like he's definitely like the fourth Fishman. But
Bitch, what about Hansi?
I put Zach above Hansi.
Man.
Well, okay, no.
Chris hates women, confirmed.
Zach is the fifth Fishman that Hansi did.
There we go.
You know what I mean? Zach was an inseparable part of the band. He is good. Anyway, Kūchū.
But yeah, no, I also think Kūchū is probably the first moment when Fishmans have their own sound. Like, up until this point, every Fishmans album was like Fishmans doing something. You know what I mean?
Except for King Master George.
But King Master George, they're still doing something. They're doing like what everyone does on their sophomore album, where they just throw everything at the wall and see what
Give
sticks.
me another sophomore album that is as crazy as King Master George.
A lot of sophomore albums.
Tell me one later.
I don't know. I can't think of albums off the top of my head, but it's just the thing. It's like you could tell what they were doing. But here it's like, you know, if I was selling like Orange to someone, I'd be like, oh, you know, it's Fishman's doing like a funk rock sound. Or if I was selling Neo Yankees, I'd be like, they're doing sort of like a pop reggae thing, like, you know.
Like, were you alive in the 90s? Here you go.
Yeah, but if I had to like describe Kūchū to someone, I would just be like, it sounds like Fishmans. Like they're not doing any one thing really.
Look, I'm sorry for bringing up like other albums while we're discussing this one, but it's just funny that you say like if you're trying to sell Orange to somebody, you would say like, oh, it's Fishmans doing funk rock. When on that episode we discussed the fact that it's not very funky at all.
It's kind of funky.
Couple tracks. Anyway,
Damn.
Yeah, this
Call
is
me out.
This is very definitive Fishmans
And
sound.
everything after this point is just Fishmans. Like, they created their own thing.
Good job. Wow, I get why people are like, I'm just gonna listen to these 3 albums and nothing else.
Yeah. So yeah, just the range of sounds and emotions on display within this tight 8 tracks. It's the definition of like streamlining your album to excellence and perfection. It's all killer. There's no filler. Even the one track that we don't really care for as much, it's not because it's like boring. It's just because like
It did what the other tracks did, just not as well.
yeah. It's probably in my top 10 albums of all time, maybe like 20.
It's It doesn't rank that highly for me.
I love this album.
It's a perfect. It's like top 50 maybe.
Man. So yeah, that's pretty much what I gotta say about it.
Wait, hold on. Kūchū Camp.
So yeah, I mean, next
do that for the
episode
last
we're gonna talk about long season. I have no idea how we're gonna talk about long season. I've kind of been dreading it because like I don't know if we're gonna have to break it up into parts, right? No, we're just gonna be. It'll probably be like a short episode. I don't know.
Okay, look, maybe we shouldn't include this deliberation in the podcast, but I will just suggest this while we're here. I feel like we should just do our best to talk about it, linearly. Like just...
Then this happens. I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
I really hope I get the letter L for long season so I can just say that it's long.
Hopefully I get S. So I get season.
It's seasonal.
But
So-
I bet everyone's looking forward to that one.
Kūchū Camp, man.
It's so good.
It's so good. So we will see you again next month for long season. I don't think we're having a guest on that one, right? We're going to have some guests on Kūchū for sure. We're going to have one of our friends and one of his friends, and then maybe at some point in the future we can bring Mr. Chops back.
Maybe Chops one.
Maybe Chops can come on long season, maybe.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll have some surprises in store. And then once we finish Setagaya, we'll be talking about all of the other live things. And then, and then we're just going to implode. So, yeah. Oh, also, we haven't been telling people where to find us on the internet, but they can also do that. We are Fishmans Podcast on Instagram. Please follow us so that when we do our next, listener poll, you can just send us stuff on there instead of, emailing us.
And again, we're also the FISHCAST on Twitter. I promise I'll make our first post
He's
tomorrow.
tweeted, nothing.
There's one tweet and it just says Fishmans.
Love that.
Anyway, we will be active on Twitter in case anyone cares. I don't think anyone's going to the FISHCAST Twitter.
No, it's cool. The Instagram is more important. But and if you ever if there's anything we said that was blatantly false, or if you just want to say hello, you can email us, fishmanspodcast@gmail.com. Tell us that you love us, or that you hate us, or that you hate Fishmans, and then we'll just block you.
Anyway.
Bye.